Chief, good to go? All right, I'll call this meeting to order. President Culp is out today, so I will be your showmaster today. We've also got Commissioners Vargo, Nagy, and Collins here. First, we'll do the approval of the memorandum of the May 16th, 2022 regular meeting. Commissioners, any questions on that? Take a motion on that.
Motion to pass, right?
We've got a motion to pass by Commissioner Vargo. Second from Commissioner Collins. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes 4 in favor, 0 opposed. Memorandum is now approved. We have no old business and we have no new business. We just have some other matters. The first up is recruiting. Chief?
Thank you, sir. It's good to be with you all this morning. I have two important matters I'd like to provide the commission with updates on. The first is recruiting and our hiring selection process. And we're certainly not trying to be presumptuous or get ahead of the budget, the council's approval, those kinds of things which are necessary for us to move forward. But at the same time, it will delay us significantly if we don't begin the process now. So we have begun the process of accepting applications. And when I first came in the position, I told you that I would always go over with you the procedures and the screening processes we would use for the selection of new officers. And Drake is going to walk through that with you. And it's the same process that we'll present to our pension board, which is required by law before we move forward. So, Drake.
Good morning. Yes, so to go over the applicant screening schedule, actually, if you want to flip to the back of the packet, the last page with the green table, that kind of outlays what our plan is to run this process. As you can see, it's about a 6-month process to hire police officers. You all are probably familiar with in years past. We did post the open position October 17th. We did not post how many we had because we still aren't sure until we have our budget approved. But we are accepting applications, and actually just since then, actually it was prior to the 17th. Until now, we actually have already received 20 applications. So very good start for just about 2 weeks into the process. We will meet on November 10th, as Chief mentioned, with our members of the pension board. We are required to have them approve the vendors that we'll use if we decide to use any outside vendors, which we will for any of the screening parts of the process. We have applications actually closing. This is not an update. It's actually November 6th. And as you can see on the schedule there, we will begin our specific screening exercises from that point, starting with physical and written testing. In the past, we've used an outside vendor. We'll look to do that again if the pension board so approves. We'll have board interviews. After that, we'll have a list. Board interviews are also conducted by an outside vendor. We'll have a list for conditional offers. The reason we give conditional offers so early is because they're required for polygraph examinations. So in order to administer the polygraph, we'll need a conditional offer signed on file. Then they'll go to background investigations. Those kind of happen simultaneous to the polygraphs, so that the background investigators are able to use the polygraph as a tool during their investigation. We'll review it all with HR. We'll conduct chief or command staff interviews. And then at some point, these dates are all obviously very flexible. We'll look to either hit a regular scheduled commissioners meeting to get to run this all by you, or if we need to call a special meeting, if there's a gap, we'll do that. Of course, we'll do psychological medical evaluations and perf. That is required by our by state code and our pension program. And once we get everything submitted to perf, it takes them up to a month to approve the hires, and we'll have a hire date. We're looking at tentatively April 10th. So that's where we're at with the schedule.
Captain, how many new officers were in? Let's assume the budget is passed. Is it 5 new officers?
Yes, it is.
Is the idea to have them all go through the same process and start on the same date and have sort of a class of 5 officers?
So that's a good question. We are accepting both lateral applicants and new hire applicants. And so there are some cases where lateral applicants can be kind of expedited, specifically if they are already in our pension program. So every municipality in the state of Indiana participates in the same pension program. So if we pull, for example, somebody from Noblesville Police Department, they are in the same pension program. So they already have perf acceptance. So we could potentially get them in quicker, maybe up to a month or more quicker. Typically, just because the onboarding process is very lengthy, it's a week of onboarding and then field training, kind of orientation. It takes time. So if we're close, we may condense them all together. But if we can get started with some laterals earlier, we would do so.
But let's just assume there's no laterals. They're all 5 new recruits. Do we have to coordinate getting them into the academy? Like, can the academy take 5 from us at once, or do we have to sort of stagger them so we don't take too much of a class?
No, it's first come, first serve. Right now, the next academy class is scheduled for April. We cannot apply for an academy class until we have until we actually have them start with us. So likely we'll be looking into the fall before they actually begin the academy, possibly August, September sometime. So, but yes, and when that goes live, there's an online portal we register our candidate or our hires through. It's just jam them through, try to get 5 in. Shouldn't be a problem as long as we hit it the date.
So what are they doing between when they're hired and then to keep them safe, keep the public safe, but still contribute?
Yeah. So they state law says, and it says that he can work for up to 2 years prior to getting academy certification and still be a certified police officer in the state of Indiana. So we will begin field training with those officers, and field training is every bit of 4 to 6 months as well. So like we just sent our 2 newest hires this past go around into ILEA. They completed nearly all of their pre-training, their field training before going to the academy. So we're able to utilize that time to get them oriented, to get them all the training that they're required by the state for the year, annual certifications, and then also get their field training begun and almost completely done, essentially. And then we'll usually, when we send them off, they do that. If they need some reorientation, we bring them back, complete their training, good to go.
Or I promise the last question. Are we set up to field train 5 officers at the same time without putting too much resource strain on those trainers?
Yes, we are. So as you may know, we have 4 shift rotations. We have 2 night rotations and 2 day rotations. Each of those rotations have multiple field trainers on them. So we can, it's a task. We haven't trained 5 at the same time, probably since 2008 when we last hired 5. But it can be done. And like you said, if we can expedite that with laterals, we'll certainly look to do that because they require less training, especially if they're an in-county lateral or local lateral that's already, familiar with our computer systems, with the dispatch system. I mean, they can be in and out of field training in 30 to 45 days. So,
Can you disclose if any of the 20 are laterals?
there are some laterals, none in county yet that I know of.
Mm-hmm. Are they desired applicants?
I have not reviewed the applications yet.
Okay.
I've only seen the names and kind of skimmed them.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have an expectation? I lied. One more question.
Yeah.
Do you have an expectation on how many would be lateral and how many would be new to police, at least in Indiana policing?
Of the 5 hires,
Yeah.
so they'll go through the same screening process and they'll be graded jointly. So, it could be 5 of either. It could be 1 and 4. It just depends on how the scoring works out. So.
Got it.
So then back to the beginning of the packet. So you can see some of the areas we've already begun recruiting from. We do have links on all of Town of Zionsville website, Indian Law Enforcement Academy. We have it on social media. We've pushed it out to local colleges, universities that we've partnered with in recruiting fairs, as well as a number of other areas. We have it on Indeed right now. We have it on LinkedIn right now. Which is the first time we utilized that. So we're doing our best to get the word out there. I'm very happy with getting 20 applications in the first couple of weeks. I think that's a strong start. Historically, we've gotten around 60 applications. So I'm hoping to meet that as well this time. if you look at the second paragraph in your packet, you'll see our immediate disqualifiers. Those are pretty similar, regardless of what police department you look at. But individuals with those immediate disqualifiers will not be eligible for employment. Kind of obvious reasons, I think, for the most part. Serious misdemeanors, any felonies.
I got a real loaded question here.
Yes.
With the tight job market and then even tighter for policing, have you seen in the prevalence of recreational marijuana, especially in our neighboring states, selling it legally, have you found that particular disqualifier further limiting the pool to the point where maybe that is a debatable disqualifier?
So it is. So a number of years ago when I began serving as a department recruiter, I think we were at 5 years. You weren't able to use marijuana within the last 5 years. Then I think it became 3, and now we're down to 1, just because of social tendencies, the acceptance of marijuana, and like you said, it's more prevalent. It's harder to find applicants who maybe haven't used it, especially when you're recruiting 22-year-old kids right out of college. You
Right.
can't account for what they've done. You hope they've made good decisions, but a little bit of leniency there. And certainly excessive usage of any drugs is not only a red flag, but immediate disqualifier.
Yeah, I think that's a whole different story, right? But I guess my ask is, as we are recruiting now and in the future, to just maybe if we have a sense of how many people that's disqualifying that may otherwise be upstanding citizens that would be good law enforcement officers, if at some point maybe we want to debate having that in there.
Yeah.
Obviously you don't want someone doing that while on duty, much like you wouldn't want someone drinking while on duty. But to your point, there's a lot of universities we're recruiting at. I'm assuming there's some prevalence of that usage within the universities. I'd hate for someone's entire potential long-term productive career in law enforcement, if that's their interest, to get dinged because they made a decision in college.
Yeah. And I can say historically, we review the applications at the end of the period when they close, and we usually kick 1 to 2 out immediately. It's like, did you read the, there's marijuana use in the last 6 months. It's like, did you read the disqualifiers? But I can't account for how many saw that and didn't apply, but we usually get 1 or 2. It's like, that's an immediate disqualifier right there.
Do you get further dings on that question in the polygraph, or does it not really come up?
It does come up in the polygraph as well. Yes.
Okay.
And so then if you go to the next section, it kind of outlays the process. You see physical agility testing. Those are based on Indiana Law Enforcement Academy exit standards, or I should say any standards. The pension board will vote on what standards we utilize. But the exit standards are there. We've used those for the entire time that I've been with the police department. Pretty good gauge. Those are the standards that the Law Enforcement Academy requires for graduation. So we want to make sure that the applicants are close to those. Then we'll do written testing. As I said, we usually utilize an outside vendor for that. At the completion of the written testing, the testing company will give us kind of a breakdown. They'll say, they've administered this test X amount of times, and this is the median score, and they'll make a recommendation based on what that score is of what we should take. So we are able to deviate from their recommendation if there are a cluster that we think are close, or maybe the standard was too low and we can't possibly take 40 applicants to interviews. We may move it up a little bit, but we'll get that report following written testing. As I said, we'll take whatever number we decide to board interviews. The way we set up our board interviews, I haven't chosen the board yet, but we typically try to vary ranks. We have higher ranks in there. We have lower, officer level ranks. We have females. We've even included citizens in the past, and civilians. Just try to make sure the board is a good cross-reference of who we're looking at across the table.
So you select a board every time you have to go through this process?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. And we change it every time. We'll make sure we involve different officers every time, because I think it's a good experience for the officers, and like I say, you learn something different every time. After the board interviews, which again are conducted typically by an outside vendor, they'll give us a report. We'll look at the report, determine what number we're comfortable taking to polygraphs and backgrounds. With us hoping for 5 hires. Our number may be a little bit bigger than it usually is. You know, if we're hiring 1 or 2, we may only take 10 or 12 to backgrounds, but hiring 5, we may take 15 to 20 to backgrounds. It also depends on the applicant pool. If it's a strong pool, you know, that'll affect our choice as well. But we go to polygraphs, backgrounds, and then chiefs interviews, as I mentioned. Weighting. At the conclusion of the chiefs interviews, applicants will be scored based on their written testing, oral interviews, and chiefs interviews. And the weighting is in your packet: 50% chiefs interview, 30% oral interview, and 20% written testing. And that's the same formula we've used the last 2 years, so that has not changed. That is our opportunity to give additional points for lateral entries or for law enforcement academy certification. So at the conclusion of that weighting, we'll give those points as appropriate. And then we will come back to you as the board and present the application process for approval, hopeful approval of a hiring list. We'll try to, in policy, I think it says that we keep a hiring list for up to 1 year, which we certainly like to do if the list is strong. That way we don't have to start another recruitment process within the next year.
Two questions. One is, are applicants aware if they're applying in October, they're not getting hired till April?
Yes, all of this, these materials, this projected schedule has been in our advertisement materials. It's been on our website. It's on, should be readily available when they view the application. They see this is the expectation. And we started doing that actually years ago because it's funny. Say we get 60 applications. It's not uncommon to have 30 people actually show up for the first step of the phase. We've always tried to skew that and try to get that number up, but it's been hard to do. I don't know why people would put an application and not show up for the very first step. So we put that out there proactively, trying to get them to put this on your calendar. Hey, if you're putting this application in, make sure you're booked up on this date so we can see you in your written testing, physical agility. So I've been to one of the physical testing, and are those people aware of the physical testing requirements? Because I'm not sure why some of the people show up. Like, that dude's not riding 1.5 miles in his life, let alone today in 16 minutes. I mean, do they know? Is there some coaching on that? Like, hey, if you want to do this, you got to do it. Otherwise, you're wasting your time and our time. Yes. So again, that's in our advertisement materials. When this whole thing is put out there, they see these are the standards. There shouldn't be any question. Some people do show up not prepared for that, and some people are honest. They say, "Oh, this is the first time I've done this. I just want to see where I was at." And I understand. But yeah.
For the university students you're recruiting, are we, they typically are going to graduate, I assume, in May. Are we okay, like, making an offer and going down the process with that student if they may not be graduating a month after your anticipated hire date?
Yeah, I would say we would absolutely, if we need to, we could postpone those dates. If there's somebody high on our list and they say, I can't start until May 20th when I graduate, we'll make that accommodation.
Got it. And then I'm assuming the budget that we just looked at on the council side has a salary number of them only being on for 3/4 of the year, correct?
Actually, that's for the full year. So any delay in hiring these will actually lower that budget amount. So
Got it. Okay.
So we'll have excess at the end of the year.
Yeah. Are there any other openings right now? I don't think there are there?
No, we are fully staffed right now.
Any other questions from commissioners?
Mm-mm.
Thanks, Captain.
Thank you.
Great. One thing our screening process does is the candidates often screen themselves out. Drake's right. They'll be the first stage of testing, and not everyone shows up. Same with the other stages. So they tend to kind of narrow that funnel themselves. Another really important issue I'd like to give you an update on is our progress towards attaining national accreditation. Actually, it's international accreditation if you want to be technical about it. But I'd like to take a minute now before I talk about the process to thank Josh Samuelson for all the work that he's done in the accreditation process. It is an incredible amount of work. And in addition to his full-time duties, which he oversees all the investigative functions of the police department, and those have expanded significantly over the last couple of years. We're now involved with child advocacy investigations, a variety of task forces, and his workload has increased. And then on top of that, the accreditation work has been a significant amount of extra work. So thank you, Josh, for that. On November the 19th, we will go to St. Louis, Missouri to attend the annual accreditation meeting, the conference. And our expectation is that we'll receive that accreditation then. The next council meeting is the following Monday. So I hope to stand before you and show you that we are now fully accredited. And it's a process which requires police departments to really look hard at their practices, their policies, and strengthen the manner in which they serve the public. And I couldn't be more proud of the work that Josh and the officers have done to get us to this point, and expect to have that for you at the next meeting. Anything you'd like to say about accreditation? If you do get to come up here.
You have to say no into the microphone. You have to say no into the microphone.
No, I think it's been great for the department. We work with a lot of agencies that are already accredited. Commissioner Collings knows firsthand. A lot of Hamilton County agencies have it. So it's always been one of those things that, competitively, when you're trying to hire, you're trying to attract recruits or people to the agency. It's been one of those things that we've been missing. So really looking forward to having that with the agency. A lot of the stuff we did was already very much in line with it. As I said, we work with those neighboring agencies a lot, and any discrepancies we would have noticed throughout that work. So that really made the process a lot easier. The department did a fantastic job. Anytime we had new reporting requirements or things that we had to start to do that were maybe a little bit of extra work, not a problem at all. All our individual subject matter experts have really taken the ball and run with it. It's becoming part of the culture, which is the end goal. So yeah, hopefully we'll get a good result from the commission. Don't see any reason why we won't. The only thing they have to really base their assessment on is the report given to them by our assessors. And I was told there are 0 issues of concern in the report. So I'm assuming it's a foregone conclusion, but we won't know till Saturday, the 19th of November, but hopefully come back with that accreditation. So.
Josh, what's the biggest change ZPD has had to make in order to get the accreditation?
I would say the biggest thing is probably 2 things. Like we've had to add some reporting requirements. Like we always reviewed use of force, we reviewed pursuits, things like that. But there's some additional processes that are now in place. And along with that, there's also some annual analysis that we're required to do through CALEA, which I think has been really good. Obviously, we've started doing an expanded annual report, so a lot of the stuff contributes to that. But we kind of look at trends. It makes you go back and keep your policies and your procedures up to date by doing those analyses. So it's been a little bit of extra work, but I think it's led to some really good changes and updates to our procedures and policies. So that's probably been one of the biggest things. And then the other one is starting to realize that there's other things that we delegate to other agencies, like communications to the Boone County Communications Center. Even though that's their function, there are still some things within their work that we're held accountable for through CALEA. So it's led to us being a little bit more in tune with the things they do, how they do them, has led to a better understanding. But certainly initially thinking that I'm going to have to get a whole other agency to follow these standards too, even though they're not going through CALEA, was seemed like it was going to be a task. But again, really good cooperation even with the other agencies. So no issues, but it's certainly something we've never done before. So.
Nice.
Right. Thank you.
I think these numbers are still correct, and it's kind of impressive, I think, for our town. But I think there are somewhere in the neighborhood of 450 police agencies in Indiana, and only about 20 city or town police departments have been accredited. Yeah, so I think it's a very important process, and provides the town with something of which everyone can be proud.
I am very happy that we've been able to go through that process, that you have all been able to go through that process in the last couple of years since you started. I mean, I think it's a great thing that you're doing. So
Thank you very much. Any other questions about the police department while we're here?
Anything else, commissioners? All right, I'll make
Thank
a
you.
motion to adjourn then.
Second.
Second from Commissioner Vargo. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right, motion to adjourn approved by 4 in favor, 0 opposed. The next regular Board of Police Commissioners meeting is scheduled for Monday, November 21st, 2022 at 9 a.m. or upon the conclusion of the town council meeting in these council chambers. Final notice will be posted in compliance with Indiana open door law. Greg, you want to gavel us close? There we go.
I know, that's right.